Breaking news from the streets of the art community, as Sony Animations, the studio that has been blessing us with certified hood classics in no specific order, is now facing the boot of the mean-faced mob and pencil-wielding graphite pushers of the art community after they cancelled what could have potentially been one of the greatest eye-pleasers of 2026 and years to come.
Sony just scrapped a film that I believe that America really needs right now.
This animation company may have just made the biggest mistake because they just cancelled the next big animated movie.
El proyecto de película de animación de Matt Braley y Rebecca Sugar ha sido cancelado.
And while everyone seemed sad and distraught that this beautiful project was cancelled, some others were leaving comments like this. This is going to be a rather interesting video. Big companies hate passion projects. It's Sony. Why am I not surprised? Wasn't Sony gonna cancel K-pop Demon Hunters 2, but they just ended up making it and giving the streaming rights to Netflix because they thought it wasn't going to be a financial success, and it ended up making Netflix millions. Thank you, TikTok user Test Me Bitch, for that insightful comment, and for your rather questionable use of punctuation marks or lack thereof while making your sentences, which has further raised more question marks in my head. What is wrong with Sony? For the people sitting at the back of the class, quietly scribbling unfinished drawings at the back of their notebooks, practically unbothered by the ruckus happening in the art community, Matt Braley, our friendly neighborhood fan favorite artist, creator of Disney's Amphibia, and also one of the all-star creators of the hit popular show Steven Universe, just announced his passion project, which he had been working on over the past couple of years with Sony Animations, had unfortunately been cancelled by Sony Animation. In his now viral hit tweet, he shared some incredible concept art and visual development images that showed us a glimpse of what this unique and spectacular world could have been like and what Sony had sadly taken away from us. Not the greatest news I was hoping to share, but here it is. Hoping to bounce back hard this year though, and we'll be announcing an exciting new thing tomorrow. Please look forward to it. More art below. And I'm not kidding when I tell you these were absolutely some of the most beautiful character designs I have seen this year, and the probability of this being a hit movie was and still is extremely high. Each and every single character felt like a breath of fresh air, and you can already tell their personalities from the shapes and the poise of each drawing. We have the strong, silent type, the goofball, the meek one who eventually steps up in the face of danger, and Queen Mother, which is probably everyone's favorite character. I also love the subtle hints of oriental art infused into the costumes, which really gives life to the character designs. At the very start of 2025, I received the unfortunate news that the movie I had been working on for 2 years at a major animation studio would not be moving forward. I'm super proud of the lovely script that Rebecca Sugar and I wrote together, and I'm disappointed that you will all likely never get to see the film. I had a really supportive development team, but the film was ultimately judged as not commercial enough to produce. Not commercial enough to produce. Wow. I understand these decisions are not made lightly and have nothing but respect for the studio, which continues to put out amazing films. The movie was about a teen boy traveling to the world of Thai spirits in order to cure himself just before undergoing a very scary and life-altering operation necessary to live. This was not a story about finding a cure so much as it was about learning to accept one's unchangeable circumstances with grace and realizing that a different life than expected can still be a wonderful one. It was a deeply personal story for me as I was diagnosed with an incurable chronic illness at a very young age that brought permanent changes to my lifestyle. Not only that, but it would have been an honor to bring more Thai culture to the big screen, a torch I hope someone else picks up. Today I would like to share just a small bit of the artwork that we created during development. Hopefully you can close your eyes and imagine how cool the film would have been if completed. I won't lie, this decision really knocked the wind out of me for a few months. I struggled to find enthusiasm to be creative again. With some space though, I think the experience has strengthened my resolve about what I like to pursue next and how I'd like to go about doing. Well, thank you Sony. Thank you for forcing us to bring what would have been a classic to life in our heads, making up scenarios and unscripted fanfic just to see these characters come to life in our imaginations. Matt's initial tweet had a whopping 2 million views and counting, with artists, animators, and art enthusiasts all leaving comments fascinated about the beautiful art he had just posted, and absolutely flustered this project had gotten cancelled. I know this would have been generational. It sounds like a tearjerker and looks like a masterpiece. It crushed me to hear it won't be moving forward, but I'm stoked to learn about your next project. I hope that one day you are able to tell the story. I've had multiple life-altering conditions that have followed me since childhood. These kinds of stories are important for people like us, especially the kids going through it right now. Sounds a lot like it would have been an engaging and meaningful film. You'll get your story out one way or another, if not this one project. Many artists all seemed visibly upset in the comments about Matt's project, and every single one of us was somehow confused by what Sony meant when they said the project was not commercial enough to produce. Could it possibly mean maybe the story wasn't just working? And if that were the case, couldn't the script just be revised? It sounds like Sony just used that line as an excuse because someone in the higher ups felt the film will not appeal to a broad enough audience and doesn't fit neatly into a franchise that could be marketable to the masses and milked for multiple movies over and over again. Ideally, Sony execs would want an IP to be as successful as Spider-Verse and make as much money as possible for the studio before it will be greenlit for production, which is why studios weigh their options before then settling for a project. And when they feel an IP wouldn't make a profit, they end up cancelling it or selling it off to a streaming service like Netflix and such. Speaking about Netflix, if you enjoy watching videos like this and find them as entertaining and informative as your favorite shows on Netflix, you should subscribe. I post weekly and talk about art, things happening in the art community, and other things of that nature. If that's something you find interesting, just hit that little subscribe button and join the family.
Can you imagine being an animation studio and getting this concept art from the creators of Steven Universe and Amphibia and being like, you know what? Scrap the project. Yeah, dump it. This is gonna be bad. This already sucks. Let's just toss it in the bin. Sony Pictures somehow scraps an original Thai-inspired film from Amphibia and Steven Universe creators. What are we doing? This is the same studio that put out K-pop Demon Hunters, by the way. You know, the biggest surprise hit of last year that then became the biggest animated project of the year. Dude, I don't know shit about Thai culture, but it looks rad and this looks like a sick way to learn about it. The movie was about a teen boy traveling the world of Thai spirits in order to cure himself before undergoing a very scary and life-altering operation necessary to live. Jesus Christ. This was not a story about finding a cure so much as it was about learning to accept one's unchangeable circumstances with grace and realizing that a different life than expected can still be a wonderful one. Jesus Christ, I'm gonna cry just reading this. Ignoring the fact that audiences have proven that they like seeing different cultures represented in animated mediums. Ignoring the fact that this just looks sick in its own right. Making a movie with Rebecca Sugar and the creator of Amphibia at the helm would have sold tickets all on its own. This is the same studio that saw no potential in K-pop Demon Hunters. Couldn't have said it better myself. In terms of being like a sleeper success, this could have been the next KPDH.
The character design subreddit had a post talking about Matt's project and Sony's reason for its cancellation, saying Thai mythology would have been cool to explore on the big screen. But judging from the success of previous movies like Raya and The Last Dragon, that probably wouldn't be happening anytime soon. As a Southeastern Asian, these designs slapped, but I can totally see why Sony was hesitant and later cancelled a project like this, fearing it may see the same fate as Raya and The Last Dragon. This article on Cartoon Brew even made fun of the situation, saying the same studio that once considered $20 million fair compensation for K-pop Demon Hunters has now determined that an authentic, culturally specific fantasy from two of television animation's most acclaimed creators did not meet its threshold for profitability. Which clearly seems like a similar situation with K-pop Demon Hunters, except that this show was cancelled early in 2025, way before Sony or Netflix could have predicted the success of K-pop Demon Hunters. The article continued saying, over the past decade, Hollywood animation has frequently patted itself on the back for embracing diverse storytelling and global perspectives. At the same time, studios continue to apply narrow assumptions about what audiences will and will not support. Projects rooted in non-Western folklore are often treated as risks rather than opportunities, even when guided by proven talent with devoted fan bases, and despite mounting evidence that global audiences respond to culturally specific stories. These culturally specific stories referring to Encanto, Spider-Verse, Coco, Moana, and other movies that celebrate diverse cultures from around the world, which for the most part were considered niche before they were released, but became widely successful because of the exact same cultural specificity, which in turn made them resonate to a broader audience. It will seem like the more grounded and relatable a story is, the more universal and accepted it becomes to an audience. Who would have thought? Sony Animation has at times positioned itself as one of the more creatively ambitious major studios. If any studio were likely to champion a project like Braley's, the one behind a globe-spanning hit like K-pop Demon Hunters will seem a natural fit. Instead, the decision signals a more cautious strategy. Originality and specificity are embraced only when they align with existing commercial trends, such as the massive K-pop music movement, which is literally what I would have expected. But knowing this project was cancelled before K-pop Demon Hunters was pushed aside and then shoved into the hands of Netflix, practically asking them to do whatever with it, makes me not even surprised it got cancelled in the first place. Sony Animation just looked at the landscape of Hollywood and the entertainment industry and basically said, you know what's better than gambling for a box office hit with a virgin project with basically no audience is a guaranteed check in the mail. And that guaranteed check came directly from Netflix. They basically took out every risk of not selling tickets at theaters or having to worry about marketing the movie, which from the looks of it still ended up being successful. But I guess it could be one of the many reasons why they felt Matt's movie wouldn't be commercial enough. This decision to cancel a distinctly Thai-inspired film seems a bit arbitrary when even Disney in recent years, even if they weren't in the current mainstream like K-pop currently is. Stuff like Encanto, which was celebrating Colombian culture, and Raya and the Last Dragon celebrating general East Asian culture. Yes, Raya wasn't exactly able to get audiences back in theaters during that brief lull between the original COVID variant and the Delta variant that put us back in lockdown till a vaccine was invented. But having since seen it on Disney Plus, I think Raya is a genuine hidden gem. Marvel-inspired dialogue aside, first hidden gem from Disney since Treasure Planet. As a Cuban American, I really appreciated Sony's own culturally specific movie, Vivo, even if, to be honest, the movie is probably painfully generic to anyone who isn't of Cuban descent. I don't see why a Thai-inspired movie like this couldn't at least be a Netflix streaming exclusive released during a quiet period for notable movie releases like Vivo was. Well, sadly, I haven't seen Vivo, so I can't directly speak about it, but I'll leave that to you. Tell me about it in the comments. Is it good? Do I need to watch it? Tell me now so I can write it down in the list of movies and shows I have to watch in my spare time. I don't need to be Thai to absolutely be fascinated by this cancelled movie's message of self-compassion in the face of chronic illness and still living a fulfilling life even if life throws you such life-altering curveballs. Besides, the whole point of movies, especially fantasy animated movies, is to transport us into worlds and societies different from our own. I can't help but imagine the real reason movies like this get cancelled is because the studio might be worried the message may be too deep for children or too controversial for their helicopter parents, even after the success of K-pop Demon Hunters and its own message of radical acceptance. Now, that's a very good point. Movies, TV shows, and other forms of passive entertainment are all riddled with underlying messages which are used as social commentary to discuss real-world issues. Case example Into the Spider-Verse, which explores identity and representation through the story of Miles Morales and his experience as a superhero being a person of color. The message in the movie that anyone can wear the mask speaks to broader conversations about diversity and who can get to be a superhero, with the underlying theme basically being diversity and inclusion. In this case, it could be the execs at Sony didn't think the movie's message fit in with their ideologies, and that could have probably been one of the reasons for it getting cancelled. who knows? Studios will prefer not to make a gamble when picking projects that get greenlit and head into production, despite how audiences feel about the story or if the characters are relatable to them. Matt's post on Twitter garnered a lot of engagement and support, and artists started drawing fan art of the characters, posting them and increasing the visibility of his tweets. Matt also went on to announce that he's starting his own studio and shared a little glimpse of what the future holds. I am starting a studio. We're small and scrappy and have no money. Why am I doing this? Because the only ones who can protect art are the ones who value it. Disney using AI? Yuck. Netflix buying Warner Brothers? Also yuck. In 10 years, what is even going to be left? He also mentioned the studio could potentially be hiring artists by March and left a link to their Kickstarter so people could back their new project. Everyone in the comments were instantly excited and rooting for Matt, wishing him success moving forward with his studio, but then I started seeing some people leaving comments which were rather disturbing. If you keep this mindset, your studio will not live long. Won't someone please think of the millennial male? Breaking. Millennials still unable to write something without making it about their own personal childhood trauma that they haven't moved past despite being 40 years old. Millennial male cries about losing his movie while studios focus on the work of females. Sorry, Buttercup, male protagonists are dumb. You should change the script to be about a young female and turn all the male characters into psychos and comic relief, just like Disney. I guess you should have made something for Gen Z males. Put the fries in the bag. Apparently, it will seem Matt had quoted a tweet with a post announcing Disney was now asking creatives in Hollywood to make movies aimed at younger Gen Z males, and he responded to the tweet making a joke at the situation for the most part. While this will seem to be a rather light-hearted joke and a peek into typical millennial humor or not, who knows what Matt was thinking, most people in the comments were not finding it funny at all and were calling Matt out directly under the post. What exactly is wrong with wanting to appeal to a young male audience? You're the reason Western animation is dead while Japan and China dominate. You're so cringe and corny, bro. Just make cartoons that appeal to boys. Girls' media doesn't always translate to boys watching. My Little Pony, Totally Spies, and Sailor Moon being exceptions, yet boys' media are enjoyed by both, so yes, they should be aiming more media at them. I can't tell if you're just a bit tone deaf or just exactly what I'd stereotype you as, and I think the latter is funnier, so I'm gonna assume that. Many people were pissed off with his tweet and were leaving comments calling him names and other derogatory terms alleging to him being a proverbial idiot. And immediately he posted his tweet about his movie getting cancelled, they stormed the comment section reminding him of the tweet he made a couple of months back, hoping he hadn't forgotten because the internet always remembers. So far, Matt is scampering to the top with his surfboard and is casually riding the waves of attention from both goodwill fans and people who love his project and are showing him support, and the people throwing metaphorical tomatoes at him and booing him for having an opinion on a rather touchy subject. At this rate, his project is growing rather exponentially with all the support and fan art he's getting from people around the world, and there's a probability that he may or may not be needing any backing from a studio and could potentially produce the movie if he could generate enough capital through crowdfunding, which is a really interesting direction for artists and other creators on the internet, and sparks a larger conversation about creators and filmmakers not needing studios to do all the heavy lifting and can now make entire projects just by themselves and their fan base. This article on Major Spoiler refers to it as a big problem for Hollywood, as a creator with an already built audience can get a project made, marketed, and into the theaters without even asking Hollywood for permission, and eventually stack up a large amount of cash from sales and profits. The article goes on to list a handy playbook for creators with a list of how to build their audience if the goal is to make a project them and their audience will be proud of, and ended the article with a little paragraph on the future of things for Hollywood. The era of studio gatekeeping is ending, not because Hollywood stopped making things, but because creators now have distribution, audiences, and business models that don't require a gate. Studios used to control access, but now Creators own the audience and the audience potentially funds the work. I'm keen on seeing what will happen with Matt's project in the long run, especially with all the support he has been receiving so far. If he decides to revive the project and fund it just by himself and his audience, it will be really fun to see, and we wish him all the best and good luck moving forward. Well, it looks like you've made it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like, share it with a friend who hasn't heard of Matt's project, and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. With all that being said, I'll see all you pretty penguins in the next video. Bye!